Hey Saber fans, how's it going? I don't typically do these review videos. In fact, this is my first one, but I had been looking to buy some of the Ahsoka Tano hilts from Rebels and The Mandalorian, and of course the upcoming Ahsoka show, and I didn't see any kind of in-depth reviews of these specific sabers. So I thought I'd put together this quick overview for anyone who might be interested. Now, these I believe are the ones that are sold on Korbanth as the Tano, because those are also made by Elf Sabers. So unless Elf Sabers is making multiple versions of this hilt, I believe it's the same one. However, as a disclaimer, I did not buy these from Korbanth, so I'm not 100% sure, but I'm like 99% sure that these are the same ones. So without further ado, let's kind of dive into these hilts, and I'll go into a little bit of my reasoning as to why I went with these. Okay, so once you open the box, this is what you'll receive. This is the packaging. It may not look exactly like this because I have removed the hilts a couple of times, but essentially this is what you will receive. Now, just in going over what my decision-making was on this, I had been, as I mentioned, looking to buy some of these hilts and did a bunch of research on what was out there. I know LGT makes some, I know Solo's Hold makes some, and then KR Sabers. And just in going through the options that are out there, I kind of narrowed it down to either the KR Sabers or these guys for a variety of different reasons. I'm not typically a fan of the LGT Sabers just because I feel like there are a few more accuracy issues. And the Solo's Hold ones, which are beautiful, were a little bit outside of my budget range for what I wanted to spend for these sabers. So ultimately, it came down to either KR Sabers, the Thrawn Hunters, or these guys, which, to my knowledge, don't have an actual name. I've just found them as Elf Sabers Ahsoka Tano, or Korbanth sells them as the Tano. Now, as I mentioned, when I was looking around to get more information on these, pretty much the only thing I was seeing were the photographs on Korbanth's website, with one, I think, animation of them lighting up the blade. So I did a little bit of a deeper dive. I ultimately ended up on AliExpress, where they had a few more videos of the actual hilt and also the chassis, how you access that, and things of that nature. And based on some of those videos, I decided to take the plunge and go with the Elf Sabers version over the Thrawn Hunters. And one of the main reasons for that, and I'll get into it when I take these things out and show them in more depth, was really just the ease of accessing the chassis. This is very easy. It requires no tools. And I know from some of the videos that I've seen with the Thrawn Hunters, that was maybe a little bit of an issue and a little bit of a chore. So that is why I ultimately ended up going with the Elf Sabers version. Okay, so these are the hilts themselves. You can see there's a great amount of detail on there. These are both one-button setups, and they do take 7/8 inch blades. Just going over it, these don't do anything. This is how you'll unscrew to get to your chassis. This is the one button. And you'll see on this side and this side, these are purely decorative. They don't do anything. And then there's the one button on this guy. You do have your sound venting from the pommel. You can see the little slits right there on this guy as well. Now, one thing I will say when I received these was that this part here unscrews, and they were a beast to get off. They really were. This one I was able to do by hand, but had to kind of put some force into it. Unscrew this guy, and then you can see your NeoPixel connector right there. This guy would not come off. And in fact, I had to kind of experiment because I could not get it to come off. I tried maybe unscrewing these, but just as a PSA, these screws will not come off. They may be thread locked or something in there, but they will not come off. So I eventually had to get some pliers and obviously kind of insulated this and eventually did get this to come off. In the process, this top part here accidentally unscrewed and came off. That came off a lot easier than this top part, so I'm going to have to eventually glue that back in. But just another PSA, unscrewing this doesn't do anything, this top piece right here. It's this one that needs to come off, and you may have some issues with that. And there's your connector right there. So those are your blade plugs. And then just to get to your chassis, let's start with the Shoto. It's basically just unscrewing this little piece right here. You unscrew this, comes off, and then this chassis piece just slides out like that. And that's the chassis. For this one, it's a little bit more work, so you also just unscrew this little piece right here. And then you need to pull this piece off. Now, this is just a magnet, but it's on there pretty tightly, so you have to put a little bit of force into it, but it will come off. And then you pull this guy out, like so. And there you have it. Now, I do like, and I'm not sure if you can see it from there, I might need to do some close-ups later, but there is actually a little bit of detail work in these chassis. There's some there, and you turn around and it has the fulcrum symbol up here. And there's also some lights that'll light up once I get a battery in there. Same thing with this guy. There's a little bit of detail work around the lights, and then again with the fulcrum symbol right there as well. And again, this is the primary reason why I end up going with these guys over the Thrawn Hunters, was just it's really, really easy to access the chassis. Now, when I was looking at this, a couple of things that I wanted to know were, was there a kill switch? Where was it? And how do you access your board? So obviously on this guy, the kill switch is right there. On this one, it's a little bit higher up. It's right there. That's the battery channel. And then to get to your board, there's actually a little Phillips head screw right here that holds this little plastic piece down, and your board is underneath. And it's the same on this guy as well. There's a little screw right there. And unfortunately, they don't provide the Phillips head screwdriver that you need. But, I mean, if you have a small toolkit, you should have one in there. And then the board is underneath. It was kind of funny because the reason I went with this was obviously for ease of access to the chassis. I kind of like to tinker with the programming of these Proffies, but I'm very new to this, so there's a lot of trial and error. So when I actually saw this cover and this screw, I kind of laughed because there are tools required, obviously, and there's a little bit more work, but still I like the fact that you could just unscrew and pull that chassis out. One thing I will say is when you're putting this back in, I'm probably going to keep this kill switch off and then slide in just in case those pins hit the metal. That can do awful things to your electronics. So maybe just slide it in, and once it gets going, I'll hit the kill switch and put it back in just to avoid any issues. Okay, so zoomed it back out a little bit so I can show what else comes in the box now that we've gone over the good stuff. Not sure what else there is to say. I know with the Thrawn Hunters, these act as an external, like charging port / kill key. Like I said, these don't do anything. They're purely decorative. You would kill power with the kill switch. So once you're done, you kind of put these back, and I wonder, okay, these two screws appear to be the same, so it doesn't look like it matters which one you put in which. So there's that guy back together. And again, you slide that back in, put this back in. And then this just kind of snaps back on the magnet. Now, what else comes in the box? Move this guy over here. So what you're going to get is a stand. This is kind of cool. You can put both of your sabers on there for display. It's a nice touch. You get 2 battery chargers, and it has a little bit of wire management on there. So that's nice to kind of put that USB port back in there so it's not hanging out. And then you get 2 sets of emitter pieces for each one for your blade. You've got kind of a low profile one and one that'll add a little bit of depth. And these appear to be, yep, they're the same for both. So I'm just gonna take one of these guys out. Now on the low profile one, I mean, that's not going to add a ton of blade depth. I may have to get a measuring thing out later to see, but so that's what it looks like with the lower profile one. Now, obviously the longer one will add some more blade depth. And again, these are interchangeable on either one. I'm just kind of putting one on each just for instructional purposes or illustrative purposes. This one's got 3 retention screws in it. This one also has 3 retention screws. So I think it's just personal preference, whether you feel like this is enough blade depth, or if you feel more comfortable with a little bit more. But again, there's one for each, so you can do both of them with the bigger ones or both of them with the lower profile ones. It's really user's choice. And then there is a bag of Allen keys for these retention screws. But again, there is no tool provided for the little cover over the board. So that's something that you'll have to provide yourself. If you don't already have one, you'll have to get one. In case you were wondering where I got these from, I personally bought these from AliExpress. I had never purchased anything from AliExpress. I had no other experience with them. So I was a little bit nervous as to how that was going to go. While you're looking around on AliExpress, if you choose to go that route, there are a number of different sellers that sell these hilts. And they can vary in price based on whether they come with blades, whether they don't, and things of that nature. For me, what I wanted to do was have a little bit of interaction with some of the sellers just to see, how much they understood, whether they knew about the hilts. I guess I just wanted to get a better feel for them. So I reached out to 3 sellers on AliExpress through the messaging system that they had there, and just ask some basic questions about, where the kill switch was, because it wasn't readily apparent for both of the hilts where that was, how you access the board. I wanted to know if I bought blades with these, what size they were in terms of length and things like that. And based on the answers I got, and actually all 3 sellers that I contacted did get back to me, and in varying degrees of success, did answer my questions. Okay, so the next step is let's fire these bad boys up and see what they can do. So again, you unscrew this, remove this black metal piece, and this will come out. And I went ahead and popped a battery in there. So you flip the kill switch.
It was foretold that you would be here. Our long-awaited meeting has come at last.
So you can see this part is blinking. You've got the lights running that way. And then when you fire it up, you've got, it speeds up and then goes solid. It does have twist off. I'm not sure if I mentioned this initially, but I did buy these installed. So this is what I'm assuming is the standard chassis for the Elf Sabers. So I thought it was a pretty nice design with some really nice touches, and you can see that's the animation while it's off. Hit this kill switch.
Revenge is not the Jedi way.
I am no Jedi.
And you can see from this one, after a while it does time out, so it doesn't completely kill your battery. So just to illustrate real quickly how you would access the board. Again, this is just a small Phillips head screwdriver. You would remove that little screw, and this is actually a pretty tight snap fit into this section. You could probably get away with not using the screw at all, but then you have access to your board and your micro USB. Kind of snap that in there, press that in, and again, it seems to hold fine without the screw. So maybe while I'm updating the Proffie board and adding sound fonts and stuff like that, I may just leave this screw out until I get it kind of finaled. There's that one, and again with this guy as well, it's just very small screw, and again a pretty tight little snap fit into there, and that's how you get to the board. Okay. And one other thing, so let's hit this kill switch again.
Revenge is not the Jedi way.
I am no Jedi.
So I don't know if I mentioned, but so these, when you switch
Hello,
sound
Master.
fonts,
It's been a while.
the lights also change color accordingly.
Revenge is not the Jedi way.
Okay, let's actually shut that off. So I'm going to put this back into the hilt. One thing I will note, so the battery that's in there right now is not the battery that comes with this saber. I'm still waiting for that to be shipped. But I've noticed with the battery in it's a little bit of a more snug fit into the hilt. You can kind of see when I pull out, there's a little bit of resistance there. I'm not sure if the battery that'll eventually come will have a narrower profile to fit in there. So let's hit the kill switch.
Anakin Skywalker was weak. I destroyed him.
Then I will avenge his death.
This guy doesn't seem to have the same issue even with the battery in it. Slides in pretty easily.
It was foretold that you would be here. Our long-awaited meeting has come at last.
Okay, so before I fire these up with some blades in, I did want to go ahead and show. So that's the power thing. And one thing I noticed, I'm not sure if the camera will catch this, but underneath this gold emitter cup area, there is a little bit of bleed through of light. It's not really like a cool shine through effect. It just looks like there's a gap in there that light is coming out of. Let's see if this one has the same issue. Yeah, so underneath here as well, not sure that it'll catch it, but there is just a little bit of light that you can see under there. I may try to do some further research to see if there's a way to seal that a little bit better so that the light doesn't come through there. Okay, so at long last, we have these guys with blades in. And I went with a 28-inch on the Shoto and a 32-inch on the longer one. The seller of these was actually very nice and exchanged this one out. This typically comes with a 35 and a 32, but I'm a shorter person, so I didn't really want the 35. So he was actually willing to trade that out for me. You'll see that this one is not lit. It's because it's not set for the correct length of blade, but that's something I'll fix in the config. So there they are. Okay. And again, these do have twist off. One thing so I went with the lower profile on the Shoto. And this shorter blade that I got actually slides in rather easily. And it seems like this might be an okay depth for this length of a blade. I went with the longer one for this just because I didn't feel great about that size. The one thing is that this longer piece is a little bit tighter, so I probably will end up sanding down my blade a little bit. I think, yeah, there's not a lot of blade depth in here with the shorter one, so yep, so that's it. Okay, so I just wanted to do a quick little video here to show that I did actually find a solution for that light seepage issue, the light that was coming out of the bottom of these emitter cups. So what I did was, if you look in there, you'll see what appears to be black paint. It's kind of a rougher substance around some of the edges there. It's not paint. What I had was some of this liquid electrical tape, and I happen to have it in black, which helped to really block out the light. So I did a couple of passes with that, and now you'll see there's no more light coming out of the bottom of these emitter cups. I'll show the gold one as well, so you can see that one maybe a little bit better. Now I like this liquid electrical tape because it's a very forgiving substance, so if you don't like how it's coming up the sides, you can scrape it off really easily with just like a toothpick. And again, this, you can see, maybe it's hard with the reflection of the light, but there is no more seepage coming out there. Now, if you do choose to go this route, there's a couple of things that you'll want to be careful of. You want to make sure not to coat any of your actual pins or the LEDs in there, just because it'll stop it from functioning as it should. And again, you want to kind of, it may take some trial and error. You don't want to go too thick around the sides because obviously it'll affect the way your blade fits in there. I did test my blades with this applied, and it still worked just fine. So that's the solution that I came up with. There may be better ones out there, but that's the one that worked for me. Okay, so that concludes my overview video of these sabers. Again, these are the Elf Sabers. I'm just going to call them the Tano. I hope you found this overview to be useful. If you have any questions for me, feel free to leave them in the comments. Thank you very much, and may the Force be with you.